everybody, and welcome back to another Jive session. This is session 3 out of 4, and we're going to have a look at some fantastic figures today. We have the walks with 2 different endings and the hip bump. So let's have a look. Our first figure today is called the walks, which is a little bit of a misnomer because it's actually just some chasses. We're going to also have a look at 2 different ways to end the walks as following figures, but we'll get to that in a moment. We're going to start with just the walks figure, and this is going to follow our standard jive pattern that we've been working on in the previous sessions with a 1-2 followed by 2 chasses. So let's have a look. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is the walks figure. You can see it's a back replace chasse figure. Quite simple for the man, but of course he has to direct the lady. The real kicker is the ending position, where we have to have a little bit of creative thinking to follow with the appropriate figures. But before we get to that, let's go over just the simple walks figure. The walks figure, the very basic walks figure for the gentleman, is really quite simple. We're going to take our 1-2 as if we were dancing a fall away rock with no turn towards the end of 2, just like we did in the fall away throwaway back from session 1. Then it's just 2 successive chasses, but we're going to proceed down the floor one after the other, retaining a kind of promenade position for the gentleman. So if we take our 45 degree, our 1/8 turn over 1 and 2, we have 1, 2. Now I'm going to proceed, I'm ready on my left foot to chasse, left, a left in promenade, crossing over with my right, right, a right, and we have completed the walks figure. The lady steps in the basic walks figure involve a number of turns, a quarter turn each time. She's going to take the standard 1-2 of a fall away rock, turning her quarter, and then over the first chasse, turn a quarter to the left for a side chasse, ended in the promenade position, and then a quarter turn to the right for a forward chasse in promenade position. If we look at that turning action when we put it in with a partner, it will look something like this. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is the very basic walks figure. There are alternate versions of the walks with different funkier timing, and you can repeat the actual walking steps and have multiple chasses in a row. But that's enough to get us started. Now, those walks that we have just displayed have a very specific ending position. We're not in the open position like we would be at the end of a right to left, and we're not in the closed position like we would be at the end of a link or a fall away rock. We're actually in more of a promenade position. This means that the number of follows that we have for the walks figure is quite narrow. Luckily for us though, we can actually use 2 of the figures that we've examined in previous videos and take the final portions of those and add them to the end of the walks. All we need to do is learn how to lead into either one of those, and suddenly you've got the walks figure. You can repeat the actual walk steps and a selection of 2 different endings. 2 for 1. So the first ending that we are going to put onto our walks are the last 6 steps of the fall away throwaway. We examined this in the very first video. Now, the last 6 steps are essentially the 2 chasses, which means that when ending the walks figure, we're going to break our 1-2 chasse pattern, because we have the 1-2 chasse of the walks, and then immediately into the last chasse of the fall away throwaway. So you will have 4 chasses in a row. Later on, when we do the second option for ending the walks, it will be exactly the same. So without that 1-2 in the middle, those slower steps between the chasses, we do have to make sure that we don't rush through all of these. So now what we're going to focus on is the lead into between the walks and into the fall away, throw away ending, and focus on not rushing through it. And then it'll be up to you to put them together and practice. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what we saw in that demonstration was the same left side lead from the leader towards the end of the second chassé and into the third chassé, leading the lady from the position of the walks smoothly into the final steps of the fall away, throw away. What we also saw was that they are very even chassés. We are not speeding up or slowing down over them. We are just maintaining that very even 3/4 type rhythm. Once we get that smooth lead and transition from the walks to the ending of the fall away, throw away, we can essentially dance both of those together. We can dance the fall away, throw away as its own figure, as we saw from the first session, or take the last two chassés and put it at the end of our walks and create two new figures. What we're going to do now is pretty much exactly the same thing, but instead of using the fall away, throw away as our exit figure from the walks position, we're going to use that change of places right to left. That's the one that took us from a closed position to an open position. In exactly the same way that we used the fall away, throw away, we're going to remove the 1, 2, that back replace step, and just use the last two chassés. So what we're going to do now is examine the difference in lead, taking that arm up and turning the lady in the correct position so that we can have another smooth transition from the end of our walks into the entry of our change of places as if they weren't the different figures. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in that demonstration, we saw the change of places right to left ending attached to our walks. Towards the end of that second chassé and through the third chassé, we saw a smooth transition, a lady's quarter turn to the left to close the position while the man's left hand was raising, ready to gently push her through with the right to move smoothly into that change of places action without the 1, 2 of the fall away rock before it. So that's the walks figure ended in promenade with two options for transitioning out into the open position. As we said, there are other ways that you can dance the walks, and there are multiples that you can add on after that, and there are even some open figures that can end that figure in a different way altogether. But that will get you started, and we urge you to try both of those endings using your fall away, throw away and your change of places right to left in your walks to give you a different feel for all three figures. Now let's have a look at a really easy but quite fun figure to dance. It's called the hip bump. Now, this used to be called the shoulder shove, so if you read some resources that reference a shoulder shove, this is exactly the same figure. It was renamed because hip bump implies a nice gentle figure, shoulder shove is a little bit aggressive and can get a little bit mean if taken too far. So we're going to have a look at the gentle, fun hip bump. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can see from that demonstration that the hip bump is as simple as the 1 to 2 of a link with two chassés. We're going to turn the two chassés a quarter in the appropriate direction, creating the natural opposite for the leaders and followers steps. When one goes right, the other goes left, and vice versa. We are going to end up bumping that initial starting leg hip, so left for the leaders and right for the followers, and move from the open position into the bump and back to the open position, where we could repeat or follow on with any other figure commencing in open. And 1 and 2 of a link, quarter turning the first chasse into the hip bump in the centre, and then quarter turning out, back to the open position. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's have a look at what we've done this session. We're going to have a look at the walks with the throwaway type ending followed by some hip bumps. And then we're going to have a look at the walks with the change of places ending and another couple of hip bumps. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's have a dance of those figures, combining it with what we did in sessions 1 and 2.
He was a famous trumpet man from out Chicago way. He had a boogie style that no one else could play. He was a top man at his craft, but then his number came up and he was gone with the draft. He's in the army now, a blowing reveille. He's a boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B. They made him blow a bugle for his Uncle Sam. It really brought him down because he couldn't jam. The captain seemed to understand, because the next day the cap went out and drafted a band. And now the company jumps when he plays reveille. He's a boogie-woogie bugle boy of Company B. A toot, a toot, a toot-a-toot.
Well guys, that's the end of this third session of Jive. Well done. You have quite a number of different figures now and a few options to choose from as well. So put them together, try them in your own different variations and sets of choreography. Give it a whirl, whether it's in your kitchen, living room or on the ballroom floor, and see what you can come up with. Don't forget we have one more session to come, and we're going to be doing a number of variants on the American spin. So we'll catch you then.